2020 was an, interesting year. Despite that, I'd like to try and do something a little bit different this year and cap it off. So today, I'd like to present some scrap video ideas, behind-the-scenes screenshots, and just some other general trivia. I'll provide some commentary over certain things, while others I'll just let speak for themselves. So, like many YouTubers, I've had my fair share of scrap video ideas just because they didn't really work out in the end, were too ambitious, or for some other reason. The first one I'd like to talk about was the original Episode 9 plot for the Marysville Railroad stories, which originally was not Iron Ores Aboard. In this scripted document I have back to January 4th, 2018, Episode 9 was originally titled Switcher Slander. Oh boy. The name's a bit corny, I will give it that, but this would have brought back the character Logan, the Port Huron and Detroit Railroad Alco. Now, I'm gonna talk pretty fast through this so it doesn't take up the entire length of the video, but the episode went something like this, basically. Marquette and Frank are pulling a loaded grain train to the southern end of the railroad called Baldwin. It was based on Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and would have been introduced in this episode. As they arrive, they hear Logan's horn, and Frank gets introduced to him. After I retcon the entire series, making episodes 1 to 4 in the short irrelevant non-canon, I came up with the excuse that Logan had been in the shops after his crankshaft broke pulling a train up the big hill. This was because Logan was meant to go missing after the Halloween special, which was episode 2. Now, the reason I retconned the Marysville Railroad stories was because the first few episodes were honestly just kind of a big inside joke with some friends and I with all the cringy, dumb, stupid humor, if you can really even call it that. And originally, the Marysville Railroad stories was not supposed to be serious at all in any capacity and just be full of jokes and dumb memes that did not really age that great, but in the end, I decided to just go with a different writing direction, and I just figured with all those old episodes, they didn't really mix well with the new ones, which had a totally different writing direction. Anyway, I don't know if a broken crankshaft constitutes a long time in the workshop since I'm not really technical with locomotives, but it sounded good, so I went with it. After that, Logan introduces himself and soon enough takes some grain boxcars after Mr. Melvin comes to greet him. Logan meets up with Chessie along the way, who tells him about Jackson. Logan and Jackson meet at Columbus, where they are tasked by Mr. Melvin to take a string of hoppers from the Sioux line to Marysville. Jackson insists on leading because it'd be hard to see behind Logan, I guess. They struggle up the big hill, and then a coupler breaks behind them because plot convenience! They grab a spare from the caboose, and Jackson tells Logan to not pull as hard, and they banter a bit until setting off again. When they arrive in Marysville, Logan sees the yard in a less organized state and flips out. Logan reorganizes everything in a montage sequence to his standards and putting the cars into units, so tank cars with tank cars, boxcars with boxcars. Avery and James meet Logan while he's switching, and then Marquette and Frank show up with empty hoppers, to which Logan goes to switch for them, but runs into Jackson, who was also going to switch the hoppers, I guess. Not sure why the engineers didn't just stop them, but okay. After that, there's a mix-up with the trains because Logan changed the way the cars were organized on the tracks. Somehow, no one noticed this mix-up until the train got to its destination with the wrong cars. That mix-up being chemical tank cars going to a grain elevator. Ugh, the script is bad.
It's all fucking awful! It's all of it, and every single one of them sucks!
Later on, Logan has a return to service excursion plan the next day, and Jackson is placed on the train as a backup helper engine. Jackson doesn't like this because he already doesn't like Logan. Later that night, Logan and Jackson argue with each other at the roundhouse, and then all the other engines tell them to shut up in unison. The excursion train takes place next morning as they're going to the north. Jackson stops because he thought he had a side road coming loose, I guess. Then he becomes weak and short of breath, or steam rather. His steam pressure completely drops to 0 psi, so it says in the script, and they stop for an inspection. Logan pulls the excursion in a broken Jackson the rest of the way to Escanaba. Logan pushes Jackson into a roundhouse stall there, and they apologize to each other for basically being complete asses to each other for no really good reason. Chessie is also in the roundhouse for a bad turbocharger. Now, the only reason I wrote Chessie into the script was so I could round out the episode with Chessie asking Jackson how things with Logan were going. Jackson says it's a long story, and then the episode ends. After reading it over for the first time since probably I wrote it, it's really just a whole cheesy steam versus diesel plot because Logan got jealous that Jackson took his spot as the head switcher, I guess, and felt the need to act like his way of switching was better. Likewise with Jackson, who felt Logan was invading on his work or something, I don't know. Yeah, no, this script is not good in my opinion. Quite frankly, I don't think what episode 9 eventually became was that great either, writing-wise. Really, I'm not a fan of my writing in the Marysville Railroad stories, to be quite honest either. I find it to be really cheesy, unfunny, and just sometimes cringe at times, honestly. My standards were a fair bit lower to say the least back then, but at least I think I learned from those mistakes and made better things like Cassidy Branchline stories, Hiawatha Trilogy, and eventually Granger Rail Tales. Moving on from Marysville, there was another Cass City branch line episode planned. Not really sure why I called this a branch line, given there was a New York Central J3 on the roster, but Anyway, I would have eventually introduced a character who was a Frisco 482 mountain type, that of which I then switched to Great Western number 90. One idea with the Frisco engine would have been him loaning his oil tender to the oil-burning Amber, whose tender was damaged in a yard incident. She's a bit self-conscious of the different appearance and asked the other engines about it. Basically, the whole plot was something along the lines of not being so concerned about your looks, and even if there's a change, just to be yourself. Another idea was Jerry being concerned over a mysterious object flying in the sky a few times. Thinking it's a Soviet spy plane given the setting was the 1950s, he's paranoid all day about it, running into cars too roughly, causing incidents, and ends up hiding somewhere. In the end, he would have just learned it was a plane from a nearby airfield taking overhead satellite and postcard pictures. The last idea I had before eventually my old computer crashed, losing all those different series, was going to be a big whole fall festival episode where Henry, the New York Central J3A, would have raced a Grand Trunk Western U3B on the Flint subdivision, which I never ended up finishing because my computer crashed. But moving on from my train series videos, another canceled project was a 16,000 subscriber special back in April of 2018. I scripted it out and it was basically just me talking a bit about myself and how I got into trains and making YouTube videos, but I ended up not going with it because it just ended up being a bit boring. The next two canned projects are a bit more recent. From October of 2019, I scripted out this video called Michigan Railroads as Fast as Possible, right? It would have been a brief, maybe 5-minute video about the history of Michigan's railroads. Well, that ended up becoming a 6-page, 43-minute audio recording. Safe to say I decided not to go with the idea because it became a lot longer than I intended. I might revisit the project one day though, who knows. The last one is the cancelled Marysville San Juan Trains crossover. You might have forgot it was even happening because it's been on hold for so long, but the first episode was scripted out and I recorded the first episode in July of 2019. To summarize, the script went like this. Kent is annoyed about all the rail fans coming to town over the Marysville excursion train. Him and Wes banter a bit as Wes is looking at the event as something a bit more positive. Later on, after a bit more engine talk regarding the event with an excited Ben, then Sydney and Dan chiming in, Kent takes a freight train and then gets put into a siding at a station and the big excursion train from Marysville rolls by. Mr. Melvin and his engines meet Trainmaster and Carter. Mr. Melvin's more upbeat, silly attitude clashes a bit with Trainmaster, who questions how Mr. Melvin even got all the equipment that he has. Mr. Melvin says, "All I will say, it was legal." A callback to Marysville episode 4.
All I will say, it was legal this time.
Right.
And no, I did not voice Mr. Melvin, that was just an impression. The person who voiced Mr. Melvin was my friend Borpster. Trainmaster then sends Dan to give the Marysville engines a tour of the line. Mr. Melvin takes photos along the way of the scenery, then soon enough throws up over the altitude sickness in the high cliffs of the line. The Marysville engines struggle a bit too over the higher altitude. They make it to the San Juan station with a bunch of rail fans there and a very angry Kent who goes off on Mr. Melvin for interrupting his freight run. Dan reasons with Kent and tells him to take the passing track right in front of him. Kent says it's blocked by hoppers, and then Dan tells him to push him to Junction City, since he's already along the route. Kent reluctantly runs as a middle engine along with his train. Dan and the Marysville engines continue the tour until they're interrupted by a large rock falling on the line. Realizing some devious rail fans push it down to stop the train so they can get some pictures. After the tour, Marquette and David move to their temporary sheds, and Frank takes a spot in the roundhouse. Afterwards, Ben, who was super excited to see the new engines, races into the yard way too fast and lands on the turntable well. Carter goes off on Ben, and then Dan ends the episode by saying, "It's not every day you see a tank engine in a turntable," and Anthony wraps it up by telling him to shut up. Now, I made a community post if you haven't seen it already as to the reason why I canceled the crossover. Maybe one day I'll bring back the project, but for now, just consider it canceled. That said, those were some of the major video projects I canceled, so let's move on to the next category. This category will be some footage that didn't make it into various videos because either I didn't like it, couldn't fit it in, or it was just a blooper. Then there'll be some unused or alternative versions of thumbnails.
Yeah.
fucking done! Fuck you! 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 I'm done!
here's some behind the scenes screenshots I've taken during the video making process. They pretty much speak for themselves. let's move on just to some various channel trivia I'll kind of fire off in a rapid fire round. My username was not originally Amtrak Guy 365, as some of you might know. Originally, it was TheRailFan365. I eventually changed it probably a few months later to Amtrak Guy 365 just to be something a bit more specific and less generic. Now, the numbers in 365 don't stand for 365 days a year, and rather stand for my favorite Amtrak train, which is Amtrak train number 365, the Blue Water, which runs between Port Huron, Michigan and Chicago, Illinois. Now, one day I was kind of curious as to how many miles I've actually traveled on Amtrak, so I did a bit of a rough calculation. So between about 10 or so Blue Water trips, 4 Texas Eagles, 1 Southwest Chief, and 1 Illinois Zephyr, I estimated the amount of miles I've traveled on Amtrak is about 9,000. One thing I did back in July 2019 was change some of the thumbnails in older videos because they were just the auto-generated ones by YouTube. Now back then I didn't really care so much about the thumbnails, I just kind of went with whatever YouTube provided me with. But I just kind of decided, it'd look a little bit better with a custom thumbnail so it just doesn't look like some goofy random screenshot from the video. The longest amount of time I've gone without uploading is about 4 months actually. Back in September 18th, 2013, I uploaded this video of a CSX coal train I recorded back in February of 2013. The next upload after that was my very first trains video, which was uploaded on January 26th, 2014, just a little over 4 months. I'm not really sure why I took a big gap. I must have either forgotten about it or just didn't really have anything to upload at the time. Who knows? I don't even remember. One thing I kind of started to think about is how my channel has gone through different kind of eras, if you will, throughout the years. 2013, I would say, is definitely the beginnings and still trying to get my bearings of what I exactly wanted to upload. At the time, I was just going to upload only rail fanning videos of real-life trains and never really thought of uploading trains videos at the time. So 2013, I would definitely classify as the beginning era. 2014 was where I definitely started to get the hang of things a little bit, when I started uploading trains videos, and were what kind of got me onto the YouTube algorithm in the first place. Another thing in 2014 was the very first part of Crashes in Trains 12. Oh boy. This was one of the first videos that got a decent amount of views. I don't know how many exactly it got at the time, but it was one of my first kind of quote-unquote popular videos, I guess. And then I made 3 more versions of it. One of which is one of my most popular videos. Oh boy. 2014 definitely had a lot of Trains 12 and rail fanning videos, so I guess you could call 2014 the Trains 12 / rail fanning era. 2015 would be when things got a little weird. I uploaded this video, the actual noise it made, which was kind of a meme with JonTron at the time. Then I uploaded this video called Catch That Train, which was my version of an old meme from 2009 called Catch That Man. Then you had my first proper Thomas the Tank Engine video, if you will. This was Thomas the Tank Engine fad, which was another meme from the late 2000s, early 2010s. I guess at that time I was feeling nostalgic for old memes I remember seeing all the time. So I would call 2015 the mixed bag era, because there was a little bit of rail fanning, Trains 12, Railworks, memes, Thomas the Tank Engine, model trains, stuff like that. Then there's 2016. Oh, 2016. You could kind of see the beginnings of what would become the 2016 era of my channel in the latter part of 2015 with my first YouTube poop and some other more random meme videos. But 2016 is when things got a little weird, to say the least. While 2016 did start on a high note with me hitting 1,000 subscribers, the first video wasn't even train related. It was a really bad Gmod animation I made. After that, though, I just kind of continued what I've been doing with trains videos and model trains, real-life rail fanning, what have you. And then there was rail fan stereotypes. Oh god, no. I was starting to get back into old Mario 64 bloopers videos, which I used to watch all the time. That's why I even made these kind of videos in the first place, but this was also when I kind of kick-started the short-lived Mario 64 project, as I'm calling it. I thought I was going to start making a bunch of Mario 64 bloopers videos, but I ended up not continuing it after one blooper video and then Mario and Train Simulator, which is now my most popular video. I mean, I appreciate the support on that video, seeing as it has over 3 million views as of now, but the memes in it are very, very dated. This video did not age well at all. But what can you do, I guess? Originally, too, the video thumbnail had Thomas the Tank Engine in it, but given that whole COPPA thing that everyone was freaking out about last year, I changed it to a real-life train in case the video would get flagged as marked for kids. I might change it back at one point, but I just haven't gotten around back to it yet. Anyway, also during this time, there was a few meme videos like Roblox. Then there was the first episode of the Marysville Railroad Stories in 2016, and oh god, it was really bad. Really, really bad.
Hello there. I'm the invisible narrator man who tells you what exactly is going on in a story. And this is the story of an upcoming series.
I was sick as hell when I recorded it, and I was literally just talking into my camcorder because I didn't have a proper microphone back then. And like I said, I was super nasally and super sick, and I'm like, I just sound really dead inside. Really, really dead. Not sure why I decided to record the audio when I was really stuffed up, but maybe I just thought it would be funny because, like I said, this series was not originally supposed to be serious at all. Anyway, 2016 I would consider the meme era just because there was a lot of shit posting and just a lot of weird videos. Around 2017, I started to get a little bit back into Thomas the Tank Engine and ended up making a ton of Thomas the Tank Engine Trains videos. In retrospect, I kind of feel bad for anyone who wasn't into these videos because I kind of put rail fanning and non-Thomas Trains videos in the backseat in favor of Thomas stuff. So apologies to anyone I lost during that time, but also during this time was when I originally started Engines of Amtrak, the SDP-40F episode in May. That would kickstart another big boost in my channel's popularity, which, as I'm sure you might know already, was unfortunately taken down over some copyright issues. But has since been remade along with several of the older episodes, so yay! Anyway, I would consider 2017 definitely the Thomas the Tank Engine era just because there was so many Thomas Trains videos. Going into 2018, I had definitely become tired of all the Thomas videos I made, so I decided to take a break, but that break ended up being permanent because I don't really plan on revisiting Thomas content anytime soon. But I think 2018 was definitely a turning point for my channel. I mean that in the sense of I kind of moved away from the whole meme videos and stuff like that and Thomas videos. I started to try and improve upon my train simulator videos and make them a bit more creative and unique, thus leading to the whole VHS aesthetic videos, and I just think I was able to hone in on my creative skills a bit more. Unfortunately, throughout most of 2018, there was some personal stuff going on that took a big toll on my emotional and mental health. You'd see the first signs of this with the Train Simulator 2018 aesthetics video as I kind of blatantly put it out there that I was going through some hard times. But apart from that, I really focused in on Engines of Amtrak because it was becoming super popular, and I'm really appreciative of that because it really boosted my channel's popularity. Apart from a few meme videos here and there and other trains videos mixed in there, I would definitely consider 2018 the Engines of Amtrak era because there was a ton of episodes released, and this is actually when I originally was going to end the series with the Acela video. Going into 2019, I was starting to be able to recover from the mess that was 2018 and my mental and emotional health during that time. But 2019 also started on a sour note because my old computer crashed, and I pretty much lost all my train series routes and stuff like that. So in the end, I ended up having to cancel the Marysville, Cass City, and Hiawatha series. Now, I had been using that computer since 2012, so it did have a good run in the end, really. Either way, I got a new gaming computer, and I resumed content making as usual. However, since I ended Engines of Amtrak back in 2018 and had intended to move on from it after the Acela video, there really wasn't any big video, so to speak, for 2019. It was just kind of filler video almost. And what I mean by big video is like how 2016 had Mario and Train Simulator, 2017 and 2018 had Engines of Amtrak, stuff like that. But 2019 just didn't really seem to have anything for me. A lot of times in 2019, I really had no clue what to upload because I didn't have Engines of Amtrak to make because I wanted to move on from it. I guess you could say 2019 had the Big Boy World Tour video made in Train Simulator, but that was kind of topical since the Big Boy had just been fired up during that time. The only other real big video of 2019 I could maybe think of is Granger Rail Tales Episode 1. Otherwise, 2019 was just kind of filled with a lot of filler rail fanning videos and Train Simulator videos, I guess. Not much interesting, really, not at least until the latter part of the year, I'd say. Like I mentioned earlier, I was kind of running low on video ideas, and I was thinking, how about I cover something a little bit more obscure within railroad history and make a sort of commentary video about it? That eventually led to the whole Henry Ford, Detroit, Toledo, and Ironton commentary video. This would be my first commentary video and would lead to the trend of videos that I've been making recently. After the Henry Ford video, I decided I would start a new focus on commentary educational focused videos. So in retrospect, I'd classify 2019 as the transitional era, where I shifted my channel's focus to commentary educational railroad focused videos. That of which brings us to 2020. Oh boy. 2020 seemed to start out alright, but then, well, you know, things have never been the same since. But pushing that all aside, 2020 has been the biggest year for my channel in its history. Uploading videos like the Trains of Half-Life, which landed an article on Kotaku, the Trains of TF2, and several other very popular commentary videos, 2020 has definitely been a very successful year for my channel, and I couldn't have done it without you guys. Also, during this time, I revived Engines of Amtrak, so that's something. Otherwise, I'd say 2020 has been kind of filled with every category of video I've made in my channel's history, but I would kind of consider 2020 to be a commentary video era. So now I'll move on to some facts about my various train series. Before I had my Blue Yeti microphone, I used to just talk into my camcorder whenever I had to do a voiceover for anything. In the second version of the Marysville Railroad Stories intro, the textures aren't fully loaded in yet. Now you'll never be able to unsee it. In the Christmas special for Marysville, I hadn't fully completed the narrow gauge part of the set yet for the normal summer scenery, so I could really only winterize what I had. So the blizzard you see in the episode basically hides most if not all of the signs of the incomplete state of the set. And the last Marysville fact is the commonly asked question of why did Jackson have an Australian accent? Well, it's because... Nah, I'm just kidding. The real reason was I just thought it'd be randomly funny to have this B&O tank engine have an Aussie accent, but the canonical story would have been there was a mix-up when they built Jackson at the Baldwin Locomotive Works, and instead of having an American accent, he got an Australian one built into him by mistake. In Cass City branch line stories, Jerry would have came out of the shops with the unique CCB lettering just because, well, Jackson from Marysville and Jerry were completely indistinguishable visual-wise. Cass City also had its own business car that never saw the light of day, similar to the Marysville one which only made a cameo appearance. This whole railroad business car idea that I had would finally be realized in Granger Rail Tales, but I would honestly say, think of Granger Rail Tales as the spiritual successor to Cass City, because had GRT not come along, Cass City would have been in its place instead. Some of Granger Rail Tales' set design is directly or indirectly inspired by Cass City's set too, if you look close enough. Now, I didn't necessarily mean to basically copy over the Cass City set to Granger Rail Tales. I think it was more of a subconscious thing that was in the back of my mind, I guess. I don't really know. Just kind of came out that way. So there you have it, some assorted behind the scenes stuff, scrap video ideas, bloopers, and tons of other trivia. I do appreciate that many of you have been patient with my uploads given personal situations, along with all the script writing, graphic design, filming, and editing is all done by me alone, with some feedback from my friends. Additionally though, your feedback in the comments has helped a lot too. 2020 was a tough year for pretty much everyone given the global situation, but your continuous support has helped me out a lot staying positive and motivated, and I hope I was able to provide some quality video entertainment. Your support watching my videos has also helped in the sense of being able to upgrade and improve the quality of my content. Some of those things being upgrading my Sony Vegas Pro versions, get a new 4K camcorder, new computer parts for smoother operations, paying for trips and presents for friends and family. It's genuinely meant and helped a lot. I really couldn't have done all this without your guys' support, really. I'm hoping to continue to make videos I'm passionate about for a long time to come and enjoy things the best I can. Regardless, I hope you managed to enjoy 2020 the best you could, and if you're going through hard times, I truly do hope things can get better for you, and just stay positive the best you can. I know you can make it through your struggles. This year was for sure hard on me personally, but I've made it through. Anyway, thank you for watching this video, and all my videos for that matter. But with all that said, have a happy new year, and I'll see you in another video. Here's another fun fact, I had to re-record this entire script because before, my microphone sensitivity was way too high up, and everything was way too loud and distorted.